Welcome back to another episode of the Always Right podcast. I'm author Carissa DeLay.
And I'm Jamie Vendera, and I feel like it's been weeks since I've seen you.
Because
It's
you
been
went to Poland.
Yep.
And I went to go see Pink in concert.
That's right.
Yes, we've been kind of out. We took a week off of recording, even though we had an episode launch. It still makes it weird when you don't have an episode where we are visually together.
Yeah, exactly. So Pink in Poland.
Pink in Poland.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was an amazing concert. We also seen Sheryl Crow.
My nose itching. Is that when you're getting money, or is that your ear?
I thought that was when someone was talking about you.
I thought your ears were burning when people were talking about you.
Ears are burning
and your
when someone's
nose
talking
is
about you.
itching when you're going to get money.
No, your hands. That's your hands.
My hands itch all the time, though, because I got that.
You're always getting money. No, your hands are itching because you're giving money. You're paying it out. All right. Anyways.
No kidding. I just gifted to Dr. Vox to Wallace Herman. I know I'm going to mess up the name. He's from Fantastic Beasts. He was in Beetlejuice, and James Payton, who played. What is wrong with me today? Neville Longbottom's father.
Yes,
yeah, his father. So 2 great guys. They were at Wizard Fest in Ironton a few weeks ago, and I just gifted them. They don't know it unless they watch this podcast.
Well, they'll only know that if they watch the podcast, and they best be watching the podcast.
I'm going to tell them.
You're telling everybody to watch the podcast.
We need to have them on and talk about how, you turn words into real life on the screen. You know what I'm saying? You got to act. You got to act through it.
Well, I mean, so this is a writing podcast, but sometimes when you have someone that has to read someone else's writing, how do you translate that into words?
I think that's.
Yeah. See, there you go. You have the connection. You should make listen.
I keep seeing dust fly around. ADHD is on. Wait a minute. I'm not allowed to say that anymore. My hypermind is on alert this morning.
You're allowed to say it. I'll just edit it out.
All right.
Just kidding. I actually don't edit it out. All right. We do actually have a topic today.
We do.
Yes. We're going to talk about the first printing press.
Yeah, and I'm excited about this. I'm not excited you shot down my idea after I read your notes and said, we need to talk about paper. And you're like, paper? I'm like, well, it had to begin somewhere, So when you printing press, what do you put in a printing press? Paper. So that's part of the writing process. If we didn't have paper. All right. So let's jump back in time because this is really interesting.
It is interesting. So often, I should say, Gutenberg is given a lot of credit for a lot of the firsts, but I went and did a deep dive that there were a lot of things prior, because things don't just come out of the air sometimes, unless it's there has to be a building block, something that inspired, the invention, what was the need, what was happening, what did they have prior to that. So I did a little deep dive, and I got some forms of printing from the earlier times of printing per se, instead of just scribing, because before it was just a repetitious scribing, and people don't realize that, especially biblical and any kind of religious text, when they were scribing, because they had to do it so often, there was so much to write, they would literally take out parts that made it shorter. So there was lost text, and at the time they took out what wouldn't take away from the context, but for today's interpretation, it may take out context, and we misread things often and not understand what words meant what back then. Anyways, fast forward.
Yeah, so this began in the the Tang Dynasty.
Stop it. Yes, well, but this was the woodblock printing. When you were in school and art class, did you ever do the little carving into the wood?
Yeah.
Imagine carving words into that. Like you have to do reverse.
Yeah, you'd have to do reverse so then you can have the ink on it and press it on the paper. And then I also wonder with the wood, how often they'd have to do that, because so many times you would press that wood is going to degrade.
Yeah.
So just like you would be putting it in water or something.
Yeah. So a lot of this happened in Asia. The woodblock printing, this was China. This is the earliest form of printing that is believed to have been originated in the Tang Dynasty. But you got to, a lot of times when we talk about history, it's only those who survive. So if somebody else came up with it, maybe we don't know that person. But this method involved carving the entire page from a wooden block, inking it, and pressing it into paper.
Not just that, you'd have to do it in reverse. Think, right?
No,
Like
what?
if I would write my name Jamie and I want to print it on paper, it had to
Mhm.
be in a reverse
And
letters
mirrored?
starting on the right, Jaime. When you flipped it,
I'm not sure about Chinese, but I do know a lot of Asian cultures and Middle Eastern cultures, their stuff is from right to left versus
so
left
they'd have
to
to go
right.
left to right
Yeah,
to make it right
yeah. But maybe that was, I don't know.
in vertical.
It's interesting because you think about that and how many people have dyslexia because they see it reverse, but like cultures actually read from like the Hebrew text, the Hebrew Bible is from right to left.
Hmm.
And you read it, you read the pages different. You don't start in the beginning of the book like this way, you flip it the other way. So anyway, that's different.
That's
All right.
interesting, though.
Yeah, the Diamond Sutra. This was printed in it's believed to be around 868 AD during the Tang Dynasty, and is one of the oldest examples of woodblock printing. I think I have a little bit more on it down in the notes, but I kind of go into that when we start talking about.
Hmm.
And then there was the mobile printing, the mobile type of printing. This is more what kind of pushed forward with Gutenberg. This is
Yeah.
also China.
So yeah, so with these movable type printing, they used little clay characters,
Hmm.
and then they could rearrange them to produce whatever text they had. But then again, I think about it with the wood, since this is clay now, what's the durability? Because they could have these little clay things, and the same thing, you get
It
clay
chip off.
wet, yeah, it's going to chip off. It's going to,
But I feel like at the time, I mean, I always think about sculpting and how people would sculpt from a block of marble to like this beautiful piece. Like, I don't look at artwork from the outside down, I look from the backside up. I build my background and then I go to my foreground. Where, like, when you're doing this, what you have to do is you have to sculpt something that is remaining. If you mess up once you get to the end, like, you're screwed with wood.
yeah.
But with clay,
At
you could
least you could
form
mold
it.
it.
Yeah, you could mold it, so it'd be more like the background, and then you put your letter in. So that would be a
It
lot.
makes me wonder, and maybe we don't know this because, like you said, with history, you never know. Could they have done it with a type of stone? Because maybe there's somewhere in there that they had it, before the clay. Oh, let's try stone. It's a little more durable than wood. It had to
Well,
be
but
porous. It couldn't be
but
granite.
the thing with stone is the porosity of being able to print with it.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It'd have to be porous. It couldn't be like the granite, or it could be marble
Yeah,
or
but I feel
anything.
like if it's a stone, it's porous, it's gonna break apart.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but still, with innovative minds, the same thing with wood. It's going
Yeah.
to get soft. So, I mean, I'm just curious.
Maybe.
Like, I wonder if that happened.
Maybe that was like a trial and error. That's not working. Let's go to the next subject,
Yep.
or to the
Let's go to
next
clay.
material. Yeah. Yeah, so, like, this was the 11th century. The Bengshing invented this movable type. But could you imagine just? I feel like that would be so time consuming. Each letter, not only have to create each letter, but each page and everything. And
Yeah,
this,
but then I wonder if it was when they were doing printed works back then, it probably wasn't a book per se. It was like, okay, we need to print 1,000 copies of this one page. So they
well,
would tighten it up. Then,
you have to realize this was in a time of the Enlightenment or any of like the Reformation or any of that type of movement. The only people that needed to have the print were those who were in charge.
hmm.
It wasn't available to the lay people. The copies were made for only those in control that needed it. It was necessity, not availability. But it had its limitations with the clay, of course. We talked about that. The Korean movable type metal type. This is the 13th century. Korea had saw this invention of the movable type, and they used metal, attributing this invention printing press to like kind of like the block style of the original like works in Asia. But the printed works they compiled a lot of religious text. They did a lot of, like I said, documents that were needed for the higher ups. It wasn't something that was just like, I would like to have a copy of your book.
Yeah,
Can I get a copy?
I get. I mean, you look back and it really was about religion or about like, here's you need to present this to so and so.
Official documents, treaties, things that were running through the government. Yeah. Now, this next one I put on here, this is a little less common, but the Islamic printing, this is where they primarily utilize the woodblock printing methods for textiles versus actual word printing. They found a way to print textiles like you would use for patterns in their tapestry and their clothing. So that's where kind of it's a little different. It's still the idea of printing, but I threw it in there because it was using the same types of wooden blocks and creating different presses in a sense to create a print, even though it's not a word. All right. All right. I put in here.
Johannes Gutenberg.
Yes. Yeah. But like I said before, even though we're going to move on to the first printing press with Gutenberg, he is given credit for this movement through Europe, but a lot of this groundwork was created in Asia prior to that. And he used a combination of these techniques to create the overall. And I put a picture of in there for you of the printing press.
I did. It looked like a guillotine.
That's what I put in there. It looked like a torture machine. Yeah. All right. So
You will
let's
print or you will die.
Yes. So let's talk about the first man to create the printing press so we can have what we have today. This is Johann Gutenberg. He was German. And he was also a goldsmith, a printer, an inventor, and he was born around 1400 in Mainz, Germany. Now, there wasn't a ton of information on this man, by the way. I had to do some digging because there's not a lot of history, which is interesting. He invented the printing press, but no one printed about his life.
Yeah.
No one made a text about you, dude.
Yeah, but he was also one of the unfortunates, kind of like Tesla. He just ended kind of in poverty and lost everything.
Yeah, but no. So he ended in poverty, but he was raised very wealthy.
Yeah, his family. But I'm saying,
you
have these
different means than Tesla. No, go for it.
You have these innovative minds that create, and you see it. That's the connection I'm making. And then brilliance, bringing something that has changed the world, but then they get brushed aside by somebody else.
Well, I think he had his own downfall, but like I said, there's not a ton about him, other than he was raised in a very affluent family. He was the son of, oh gosh, it's like a kind of a government official in a sense. They were like a higher social power or whatever. So he had a lot of networking through other people to be able to get people to help pay for things and believe in him. He had that ability to get the work done versus like Tesla, who had to work for someone else because he didn't have the means to do it. And then his work was stolen. It wasn't quite the same love affair that Tesla had with his inventions.
But I just hate that, I know we refer to him. He should be revered. I mean, this guy brought this into the light, and it's just...
All right, so let's talk about some key aspects of Gutenberg's life and his contributions. His early life, like I said, not a lot about him, but he was the son of a patrician of Mainz, Germany, which, like I said, that in the Middle Ages, a patrician was typically an influential and wealthy citizen who held privileges and statuses in the city's social and political hierarchy.
And
go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, and he was trained as a goldsmith. So then I'm wondering, was that like I'm a goldsmith? Was that a huge deal back then, considering the family he's coming from?
Well, when you ask these questions, wouldn't you look them up and put them in the notes? I don't know. These are questions I didn't think
trust
about.
you. These are questions on the fly. I'm like, well, I'm a goldsmith. Now I'm a printer.
Well, yeah, later a printer and an inventor, like obviously known for his stuff like that. But all right, he initially, like I said, like you said, and we've mentioned, he was a goldsmith, which influenced his later work in printing because he had a familiarity with metal, how to melt it, how to manipulate it, and particularly in developing these new metal types of printing. Okay, so he had that kind of foundational work to be able to do that. And there was a growing demand. There's a growing demand for books and written material in Europe because this is like kind of the Renaissance, happening around this is pre-Martin Luther, but this is still right before Martin Luther. So there was a lot of like drive to have written biblical texts in people's their own hands. They wanted to know what the church wasn't telling them. Anyways, there was a growing demand, like I said, for these books, especially among scholars and emerging middle class. The limitations of hand copying manuscripts made it difficult to meet the demands efficiently. Gutenberg was inspired by early printing techniques like the Chinese wood printing and the movable techniques like we had previously mentioned. And his background as a goldsmith, like I said, helped him kind of like make this more precise, more precision, and lay in more text on a larger scale of printing.
Yeah, and I'm sure, like in your notes, you say the potential for profit in book production was significant. I mean, think about it. This is something new. You're used to handwritten, and you could hardly get your hands on a copy unless you were somebody of stature. So now, as education and literacy began to rise in that late medieval, I can't even talk, medieval
Medieval?
Europe, it offered a way to capitalize and expand on the markets for religious texts as well as literature and educational materials.
Well, yes, this is kind of like you're getting a lot of the Oxford and a lot of these colleges are starting to pop up where you have scholars and stuff that are going to start being born into like wanting to teach others. So there's this growing people. This is, I didn't put this in the notes for you, but with the whole witchcraft and heresy, this drive of people kind of like seeking their own connection and relationship to their God, there was also this drive for people wanting to have the text to be able to read it for themselves. And when people would get it, there'd be one person that would get it per se. My names are slipping my mind right now, but they would take these writings and show people. But there wasn't enough repeated text to be able to like give that to
To share.
everybody. Yeah, so it was very limited. It was almost like the proselyting of their religion was a lot more difficult. They needed that. They needed a way to get the text more to the public and
Yeah.
spread the word and get away from the church because the church was under a lot of scrutiny at this time frame. Okay.
Yeah, but also like with the access to religious texts, so I'm sure that the Catholic Church held that monopoly on scripture.
Well, yeah. So often no one had it other than the clergy, and a lot of the religious movement in those times came from imagery of what was on the walls. Like it was safe with the stained glass. You've seen these beautiful things, but going in, you saw the gargoyles and these demons, and you feared that if you didn't go through the doors, you wouldn't be safe. A lot of the times, people didn't. They only took what the church said to them from the pulpit. They had nothing to check and balance it. But when people would get their hands on it and they would take and like, well, I don't think that's how it is. It would start this whole new movement, which I'm going to go on to now. Is like, because during this time for Gutenberg, this is particularly the early mid 15th century. This is the most significant movement in the Renaissance period, which kind of shifted everything towards the Reformation and it kind of brought that Protestant Reformation where people were moving on to looking at God in a different way from the Catholic Church. This period kind of allowed Gutenberg to monopolize on people's needs. So you would have thought this man would have been a millionaire, but we'll find
No
out later.
kidding. Yeah.
Yeah, you'll find out later that it didn't quite work out that well for him. But yeah, the Catholic Church held the monopoly on scriptures at the time for the Christian faith. And so many reformers sought to make the Bible more accessible to the lay people. And Gutenberg's printing press basically made that happen. It facilitated this whole distribution of the Bible. Okay. All right.
So there's a lot in the Bible. So you look at this torture device that is this printing press, and I'm thinking, you're aligning all those little characters, and
Tiny,
yeah, print,
tiny
print,
characters.
print, 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 and how many pages? So was he thinking, oh, I need to do 50 books, so because this is page after page, so you're not, yeah. But he probably made so many of these metal characters, like this is page 1, this is page 2, and they just ran through it.
Yeah, you'd have to have a large warehouse for that.
Yep.
All right. So around 1440, Gutenberg developed the first practical printing press with movable type. And like I said, I showed you a picture of it in the
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah, they had it out in the court in the afternoon, and they would just off with his head.
Yeah, it looked like, well, are you using that guillotine? Because I think I can use those parts and I can make a printing press.
He was watching heads roll. He's like, wait a minute, I got an idea.
That's something I probably should have looked up. I think the last person that was beheaded was like in the 1800s. I don't remember the exact date, but I think that like the last time that they allowed that to happen, the guillotine was not as far back as we think.
Wow.
Yeah, I'd have to look that up. It might even be you need to look that up. Last time the guillotine was used.
Okay.
I'm going to go on to the next part. You look that up because I'm pretty sure that it wasn't too far up. And this is
My
a fun
fourth
fact.
iPad's dead. That's all right. You go
What do you
on. I'll
mean?
grab my phone.
You have 4 iPads and you can't keep them
No, I got
charged.
3. My wife's got 1, and I got an iPhone. What was the question again? Oh, I got you.
Guillotine.
Go ahead.
Last time the guillotine was used. Yeah, and I think it's a lot closer to our timeline than we think. All right, well, you're looking that up. So Johann Gutenberg's printing press was innovative for several key reasons, marking significant advancements in technology of printing and leading the revolution of information to be produced and disseminated. So the movable type, like we talked about, did you look it up?
Yeah, you're way off.
Really?
The last person to be executed by guillotine was Hamida Jandobi on September 10th, 1977.
I said it was closer to our time. I said
I
because
thought you
I
said
said that.
1800s. Yes.
So I said that. I said I think it was like 1800s, but I was like, you know what? I actually think it's closer to our time because I think it's like it was a weird
Wow.
situation.
It was their primary method of judicial execution in France until capital
Yes.
punishment was abolished in
Yes. I
1981.
read that like probably in the past 8 months or
That is
so.
insane.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
think that's why I was like when I said 1800s, I was like, no, I think it's actually closer to our
Okay.
time.
I didn't catch that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I may not have been clear, but I was saying I feel like it was a lot closer than our time
That's
than we
just
realized.
mind boggling.
Mhm.
I'm watching Hanna-Barbera. Someone's getting her head cut off. Okay.
So again, that movable type. This is the individual letters, these teeny tiny letters.
Yes.
I mean, think about like the eyesight that you have to have.
No kidding.
Not to mention who edited that.
Yes. And like, oh, you had a typo. And the fifth line right in the middle. I got to pull all the metal things off and put it back in.
Yes.
Because,
And knowing how many letters you need for each page.
yes, I know. I'm like, okay, I need a bunch of the M's. So I need 782 M's. I'm short. Come
One
on.
page. But then, okay, did they store the pages?
Well,
Did they
that's what I'm thinking. I mean, in my mind, and I'm sure I'm wrong, but I could see this plate and these little grooves, and you're sliding every word in, and then how do you lock it to keep the space between words? And
they're
then
spacers.
okay, spacers.
Yeah, they're
Gotcha.
spacers. They have
That makes
nothing
sense.
on them.
So then they get that page done, and they probably seal it as like, we have this because we're going to be making this Bible or whatever for a long time coming. So that's what I'm assuming.
But that's what I'm thinking. If you own a printing press,
You got
I'm
to stock all that stuff.
correct. I am thinking about news down the road when they start producing newspapers
Yeah.
that you run so many and you have to take everything off. But when you're printing the Bible, do you store the Bible print tablets somewhere else?
Yeah, that's what it
And how
has
do you
to
know
be.
you're putting them in the right order? Like, man, because I know when I have so I put together like this book we've talked about like for the to help out with the volleyball.
Yep.
So you have this book, you could see here, and it's in the middle. When I'm designing this and you're putting it out, they don't put it out like, oh, one page at a time. They put the first page on one side and then the last page are together. And then the second page and the second to last page. And then you work your way in. They had to also do it that way. That would be layout would be crazy for the Bible.
Yeah. It's a lot of
Kudos.
storage.
Kudos that
Yep.
we actually have just like Command P, hit print.
Yeah. Oh, I made a mistake. AI will fix it. But or like, like you said the first when you were making a newspaper, and you had to switch everything every day to
Mm-hmm.
line it up. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's crazy.
Yeah, you had to line it all up. You had to make sure you get the words in there. And like, oh my gosh. So thankful for these people that laid the foundation that we don't have to do that. You know? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. Anyways, lost my notes. Where we at? There's the guillotine. Got it. All right.
We're up to durable type materials.
Yeah, this is kind of going to answer your question. The durable type materials. He created that a metal alloy. Like I said, he worked with gold,
Gold. Yep.
and he was So he had a background in metal manipulation, and this metal alloy for his typefaces using lead, tin, and what is that? Antimony.
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 Yeah, I mean, and it solved the problem I was worried about: the clay wearing out, the wood wearing
Mm-hmm.
out, the chipping that you had mentioned.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and it allowed for that like durability, like you said, and precise reproduction of text, which makes sense because over time, like you said, it's going to wear down and it's like going to erode, and eventually you're going to have to remake it. So less remaking. This innovation improved the quality of print materials and increased the longevity of the type compared to the earlier methods. The print itself was adapted from existing wine press technology, which makes sense because of the
Yep.
whole screw it down thing. And then because it wasn't this way at first, like hot off the press, it was like a rolly thing, then
To
press it
press.
down, lift it
Well, there
up.
goes my idea of the guillotine. I thought it was going to go. No, I'm teasing.
No, this was a slow burn. This was like slowly smashing your head
You're
into
gonna
the
feel it.
vice. Yeah, more of like putting your head in a vice. Yeah. Ink formulation. So Gutenberg developed an oil-based ink that would adhere better to paper than water-based inks, which with the wood wood block printing, and this resulted in a clear, sharper text and images, improving the overall quality of printed work. Well, oh my gosh. Good job.
Yes, well done.
Good job, Gutenberg.
And that was 500 years before we were born. Crazy, right? He was in the 1400s.
Yeah, but we're in 2000. So let's see.
Are we? Oh, what am I thinking? Yeah,
Oh,
I
we
was
were
thinking, yeah.
born in the 1900s. We were born
So
in
I was born,
19.
yeah, so yeah, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. Yeah.
Yeah, 500. Yeah.
He's
Good.
coming up on 600 years.
Yeah. Yeah. Printing press mechanisms. So the design of Gutenberg's printing press was adapted from existing wine press technologies, like I mentioned, and he used the press and screw mechanism that he applied to transfer the ink from the mobile type set to paper, enabling a faster and more consistent printing around the manual methods. And where people like print,
Yeah.
print.
I wonder when he dipped it in ink, what kept it from ink from falling off. He dipped it and he just let it, and then he put it in the press.
But I don't think it was. I think it was a roll. I think it was a roller type thing where you press. You only got it onto the letters. It didn't go anywhere. It didn't get dipped in anything.
Okay, I want just my curious mind.
Well, that was something they were doing prior, where you just brush the type. You don't put it across the whole thing, or when you smash it, it will
Yeah, yeah,
create
yeah,
the. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. You just
I'm in guillotine mode because I'm just thinking who know. I had to look at the machine to see if he had it rolled, across the paper or it was pressed directly down onto it. So I'll have a conversation with
it
him.
was
I'll
pressed.
do a seance.
That's what I
So
was saying earlier. It wasn't a roll. They didn't do the roll part right at first,
no,
where
it
they just
was like,
like a fast.
yeah,
That would come down later. It was more of like a slow, but it was still faster. And which is our next point is the efficiency and speed. These two combinations of durable material, movable type made it more efficient for these things to happen. And a single press could be produced in multiple copies in a fraction of the time that was before. Fraction of the time. I mean, they would have thought, man, look at this innovative technology. We're going to have stuff flying off the shelves. And it's like, all right, I'll get you a page within the day.
yeah. So it's more like dial up, but still, it was exciting.
Dial up.
So, a lot of people will say the Gutenberg Bible was like the first, but like you had mentioned earlier, it came from the Tang Dynasty.
Mm-hmm.
So I forget what you said it was called. The Sutra, Diamond Sutra.
Yeah, the Diamond Sutra. Yep. And um, yeah. So the first book printed in the world was not the Gutenberg Bible. It was the first really thing that came off of Gutenberg's printing press.
Dynasty.
The oldest printed book is a work of the Diamond Sutra and dates back to 868 CE during the Tang Dynasty. We were talking about Gutenberg and the
Yeah.
printing press. So the Gutenberg Bible was the first major influence of history that was a printed book that came off the Gutenberg press. But I'm sure there was something he did before that. We just don't know what it is.
Yeah, but with this, not only is he innovative as the first printing press, so remember for that, look at the changes he made in people's life. Like you said, they were no longer fully under control of the Catholic Church because now they could read this and think for themselves.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the Gutenberg Bible was printed around 1455 and was one of the first major books printed on movable type in the West. The most famous work produced by Gutenberg was this Bible, and it came out, 1455. Notable for its high quality and beauty, featuring intricate designs, and considered one of the earliest examples of mass production books in the West. That'd be interesting. I'm wondering what the Gutenberg Bible. Memory serves me, and I'm not 100% sure. Maybe you can Google this for me. I don't know if it was the full Bible.
That's what I'm thinking. Like, how
I
when
don't. Yeah, I don't
I
think it was
passed
the
out New Testaments and
entire.
stuff.
Yeah, I don't think it was the entire Bible, but I'm not 100% sure. This is just something that's kind of like sitting in my memory well, and I did not look it up.
I also wonder what type font they used.
Right. Did they use New Times Roman or did they use Comic Sans? Kidding. I mean, and you had to be an artist to make the type so consistent.
And they said it was very intricate. So I'm wondering
Yeah.
if they also had like little drawings that they inked for the edges.
Yeah, and I mean, you have to think that with the how you see the scrolly type stuff, did they do that? Let's look at that. Is the Gutenberg
Oh, it looks beautiful. I'm looking at a Gutenberg. I went to Wikipedia.
Well, yeah, but that's what I'm wondering though. Was that how it was in the
It's
beginning?
so funny if you look at this, like anyone watch this, type in the Gutenberg Bible and go to Wikipedia, because there's two vertical lines, just like you have in a Bible, but there's so much wasted space on those pages.
Well, and I wonder though, was some of this hand painted after the fact?
Oh, you like the little images?
Yeah.
Could be.
Yeah, because I would highly doubt that those were technically
Only
printed on there.
49 copies have survived.
Wow. Yeah, that is really cool how but it is very clean and very precise and very tiny.
Yep. It contains the Latin version of the Hebrew Old Testament and the Greek New Testament.
Okay.
But I'm not seeing if it was actually the full. I mean, you look at it, it looks like it could be a lot of the Bible.
Okay, the Gutenberg Bible has 1,286 pages and is usually bound in 2 volumes. Each page contains 42 lines of text.
Yeah, and it's all Latin. It's beautiful. You can even see where they've used different types of ink. See that you're looking at it, and it would have quite a bit in there, but it was probably condensed, as you say.
Mm-hmm. Yes. All right. I've lost my notes. All right. Impact on society. All right.
Okay.
Gutenberg. Yeah. No. I'm, like literally taking a pause so I can delete part of this out because I know that I was like pausing too much.
I think it's cool because we're organic.
I'm not vegan. I am doing vegetarian though recently with my kiddo.
I wish I could.
Yeah.
All right.
Gutenberg's innovation greatly facilitated the spread of knowledge, ideas, and literature, contributing to the Renaissance and the Reformation movements, as I mentioned. Printing press played a crucial role in the democratization of knowledge, so it allowed people to have the knowledge, and knowledge is power. When you are standing behind someone who's telling you how it is and you're not checking out the facts, there's no place for you to check the facts. Like we have the ability to check facts, even though most people don't check facts this day and age. They take that for granted. People couldn't check it back then because they weren't allowed to have that. I feel like a lot of times it was almost contraband to have written material that it's only supposed to be allowed to the church during the heresy times when they were tracking when the Templar and stuff were tracking down a lot of the people who were hiding in caves trying to just be religiously free. Anyways, so making these books more accessible made it a wider audience and laying the foundation for what we consider modern based knowledge in society. Because the combination of the materials and stuff allowed the single press to produce multiple copies of a page in a fraction of the time, besides copying by hand. Although I do like a nice sometimes writing a note. It's always nice to write
Well, that
things
was
sometimes.
for the kings and the candle wax. And
The seals.
yes.
I used to do that with our Christmas cards. I
Oh,
had
that's cool.
the seal that had the letter D on it, and I would get the wax. I would make our Christmas cards, and I would seal every one of them with wax. It was just felt very royal.
Yep.
Printing press facilitated the rapid spread of the Renaissance and Reformation ideas, like I said, allowing for more dialogue about religion, philosophy, and science, and talk and some of the people that we know in literature. A lot of the Hawthorne, the oh my gosh, brain squeeze. Who am I thinking? I'm thinking of all these people: Hawthorne and Hemingway's screenplays, like Shakespeare, and all the people we've talked about in the past. All right.
All
So
right.
talk about his life later. I'm going to let you take lead here with the later life information
Okay.
about
So there's not a, I mean, we discussed this earlier, there's not a lot of information on his marital status and his family life. Some historical records suggest that he may have been married, but specific details, including the name of a wife and any children, are not well documented. He's probably too busy. He's probably just consumed by his work. And it says it is generally believed that he did not have a stable family life, as many accounts focus more on his professional endeavors and struggles rather than his personal relationships. So I'm sure, back in that time, we didn't have the internet or anything, and you get so caught up in your work, and you just don't have time for it. Or, maybe he did, but, that's where he was consumed. He did face significant financial difficulties throughout his life, especially after the initial success of his printing press. After partnering with investors to fund his printing business, disputes arose that led to him losing control of his operation. These challenges likely impacted his personal life and circumstances. And this is where, of course, he came from a well-known family, and he had those connections, but he was probably spread thin. Hey, I need you to fund this. And they're like, wait a minute, we own this percentage and that percentage. And you know how greed and wealth come into play. And he probably lost it at the hands of some people that, you know, the Italian
Beginning
mafia.
in the beginning, when we were talking about, there were a lot of because he was wealthy, he was a part of a society of a lot of intermingling. A lot of people supported him and gave their funds to help fund the creation of this. And people want their hands in it. They want their portion. When it became a huge success, they kind of like had it's almost like when you're watching Shark Tank and they're trying to offer, they're like, I want 2 million for 10% of my company. And they're like, I'll give you $50,000 for 10%, but if I want the rest of it, I need this. Oh, I can't give that much up because this person owns a part of it. This like you don't even own the majority of your business because you come like when they would go to do you watch Shark Tank?
Yes, yes.
Where they go in, they're like, I can only offer 10% because if I give any more than 10%, I won't own the majority shares of my company and I can't make decisions.
Yeah. And they're like, come on, you're not going to get this opportunity again. Nope.
But that's the thing. People don't, in the beginning, they don't think about the consequences of letting so many people have their hands in helping your business.
Yeah.
And that's where he lost his business. He actually lost his rights to his printing press.
But at least he was
Business.
passionate, because I know he continued to work on other printing projects. And
Hmm.
I know it says that he received some financial support from followers and patrons who respected his contributions to printing technology. So, I mean, I know it probably wasn't the same, but at least he kept going. And with that cough, we
His
can say
main,
that he died on February 3rd of 1460 in
yes,
Mainz, Germany, of the flu. No, I don't know what he died of.
no, it's not documented well about that, but the records show that he was likely pretty poor at the time and acknowledge how he basically that his contributions to the printing stuff is the only thing legacy that he left behind because nothing else is really documented about this guy. He spent all of his life in the printer. So here I put down, while his personal life may not have been extensively recorded, Gutenberg's impact on society through invention of the printing press and ensured that he is remembered for one of the most important figures in history. Well, so we can have history books. His innovations laid the groundwork for modern age of information and communication, influencing countless generations after him. It's interesting how it went from the roll down and someone's like, okay, I think I can do this. Now, multiple copies. Now I can not only do it multiple copies, but because I've seen because then they have to hang the stuff to dry, the paper to dry. It's not like the ink
Well,
is
yeah,
like,
because I was thinking, like, you look at that Gutenberg Bible, and inevitably, it's probably printed on both sides. I'm assuming they're not going to have blank pages like that. So if they could, and they said they can print it multiple at once, 2 or 4 or whatever, then they have to hang them. They got to let them dry, and they probably do that. Like, I want to do 100 Bibles and then come back and flip the pages over.
well, that's what I was saying, layout. You'd have to be able to organize which page is which and making sure you're doing it. But a lot of times, the bigger the book, they would take sections and they would sew them into the
Yeah,
thing and then all combine. I mean, so technically, with this book, is probably not like it's not the beginning to end page. It's probably like the first so many pages, but you still have to know which ones you're doing.
yeah. So I can see that. Then that's how they would have a double wide page, and it could be page 1 and page 100, and then 2 and 98, or it would be 3 and 97. Then they'd flip it over.
They'd print it on both sides.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, the paper size double folio.
That takes some engineering.
After printing it was folded into a single. Yeah, very interesting. Very interesting. Thank you, Gutenberg, for making it and thank you all those prior because those are the people who kind of experimented with ways to do it, and you have to have the foundation to move your inventions forward.
Yeah, I mean they paved the way, and that's you was thinking, oh, I can do this much better than carving this out of wood or making a little clay individual words. So,
Yes, yes.
and look where we are now. Lightning source printing.
Mhm.
Boom.
On my computer, tell it to print,
Yep.
and it's delivered in 5 to 7 business days. Although, I don't know how many times the books have been lost when you send
Yeah,
them to
no
me.
kidding.
It's
And they're like,
crazy.
we don't know what to tell you. Of course, that's not Lightning Source's fault. That's our good old USPS.
Or, yeah, I don't know. There's probably a warehouse somewhere of all these books that we've sent.
Oh yeah, and some fools in there reading them.
You're funny. They're probably
It don't
selling them on
matter.
Amazon.
Yeah, when we compile all the 7-Eleven press books together, yes, then you will get them. I'm like, who cares about Jamie Lynn Saunders? All the old covers have my pen names, so it's like, well,
Are you ready for the holidays?
I'm after our podcast today. We're filming on Monday, November 25th. I'm heading to the grocery to get some more stuff. I already got a turkey. It's already unthawing, or it's already thawing. Why do we say unthaw? That's not even right. It's thawing.
Truth.
Yes. All
Truth.
right. Gold nuggets in the Always Right podcast. Yes, I'm ready.
The turkey is thawing, darling.
You know what I love, and I hope none of my students are watching this. Most of them are
Yes.
like, "Do you mind if I'm off this week? I got family coming in." No, take it off. I'm not upset.
I'm mad.
So since I had to miss 2 Thursdays ago, week before last Thursday, going to Poland, and I was like, oh, here comes Thanksgiving. Hey, if you need a lesson, we could do it on Wednesday or Tuesday. I'll work you in. So far, two of them's like, is it all right if I skip? I got family coming in. I'm like, yeah, it's fine.
Well, that's why I was like, the other day, I was gone until Tuesday evening, and for me, I hadn't did any of my homework for that week, and I had a paper due on Friday, and then I had a lab, a quiz, and a discussion board due yesterday. And one of my kids is like, "When did you get this assignment? Like, why are you doing it the last day it's due?" I'm like, "Because I was at a paint concert and I didn't have access to my laptop, and it's not like I was going to be doing that anyways." I had to kind of press down, and I text Jamie, and I'm like, "Hey, if you want to miss, we can record on
Oh, that's
Monday."
why. Yeah, it didn't matter to me. You know
Yeah,
that.
and I
So
knew you would be jet lagged and all this stuff catching up. I'm like, it's gonna be fine. And we have several episodes, so it was fine. I was like, it's all good. All right.
all
Well,
right.
thank you for listening to our episode on the first printing press. If you would like to reach out to us, you can contact us at allwayswritepodcast@gmail.com. Are you mocking me?
No, I'm just voicing it. I don't really like to say all the. I don't like
I
the
saw you in my
intro.
periph
I don't like to do the intro, the outro, or any of the stuff in between.
in the middle
I
tro.
just like, yeah, Carissa, what you just said.
In the middle tro.
Yeah, middle tro. But now I want to come up, and I know you're like, why we got to do it? I want to do one on writing by parchment and paper and all that stuff. I'll research it so you don't have to do all that and get that done.
So we could definitely do an episode on that. And if you want, if you guys are interested in other episodes, definitely email us and ask us. But we should definitely do an episode where we talk about the difference when people can tell a timeline based on the parchment, because that is a huge thing with religious text when they're trying to decide when it was written based on what they took out and what they included and the type of paper, whether it was folded paper or just the papyrus. Yeah, they could tell a lot based on how the printing was done. So that's definitely important. All right. But if you'd like to find ways to follow us, if you'd like to find a way to listen to us, you can go to allwayswritepodcast.com. You're killing me with the way you're mocking me right now.
I'm high on life this morning.
You are. You
And I
are.
look like I got a high forehead.
You do look like you have a large forehead
Well,
today.
I had this really cool do going on, and what did you say? Why do you got the Eddie Munster thing going on, or the alfalfa? I don't remember
I
what you
said, why
called
do
it.
you? No, I said, why do you have a cowlick? It was why is your
I
hair like
thought my
your hair like a
cow
milk
lick.
one?
I didn't
Anyway,
help any.
it's fine.
All
All
right.
right. What?
Now I
Thank
look
you
like I'm
so much.
balding.
Oh my gosh, that looks. Oh my gosh, it does. It looks like you have like just a small. Listen, if you're
You know what
not
it is?
if you're not watching us, you need to go to the YouTube channel right now
It's
and
because I'm
look at
going
Jamie
gray
right
right here
now.
too. When it goes gray, it looks like my forehead goes whoop, and I lose a
Well,
bunch.
yeah, it
But
does look
that's
like your forehead is going way further back.
it's all the white hair. I promise you. Let me
I
look.
see
So I
all
don't.
your scalp.
Yes, that's what it is. It's the whiteness.
You gonna go do your roots? You gonna go
Yeah,
color your
I'll do
roots?
them someday.
Okay. All right. Go follow us, email us, contact us, whatever. Do
Don't
whatever
talk
you
about my
can.
forehead.
Talk about his forehead. All right. Thank you so much for listening. Until next time, I'm author Carissa DeLay.
And I'm author Jamie Vendera, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Thanks for listening, and always write.